On a cold, windy night in New York City, the sky was dark and heavy with clouds. The kind of night where everything feels quiet, yet something deep inside tells you that something big is about to happen. Victor Langley, one of the richest men in the world, sat nervously in his luxurious private jet as it soared high above the mountains. Victor wasn't just any billionaire. He was the founder of Langley Industries, a massive tech company known for its cutting-edge innovations in aviation, robotics, and artificial intelligence. But tonight, none of his wealth or power could save him from what was happening. The jet had been flying smoothly for hours, when suddenly, alarms began blaring through the cabin. Red warning lights flashed on the cockpit dashboard, and the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "Mr. Langley, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please remain calm." Victor clenched his fists tightly around the armrests of his leather seat. He hated not being in control, and right now, he felt completely helpless. The engines were failing, and the aircraft was losing altitude rapidly. Below them lay jagged, snow-covered peaks, their icy surfaces glinting ominously under the moonlight. If the plane crashed here, there would be no survivors. Back at Langley Industries headquarters, Evan Carter and Mia Rodriguez were working late, as usual. They weren't top executives or celebrated engineers. They were junior employees assigned to monitor flights operated by the company's fleet of private jets. Both in their late 20s, Evan and Mia had joined Langley Industries straight out of college, full of dreams, but burdened by student loans. They worked long hours, often staying past midnight to ensure everything ran smoothly. It wasn't glamorous work, but they took pride in knowing they played a small part in keeping people safe. That evening, Evan was sipping stale coffee while staring at rows of data streaming across his computer screen. Beside him, Mia tapped away at her keyboard, reviewing flight logs. The office was nearly empty except for the hum of servers and the occasional ping of notifications. Neither of them expected anything unusual to happen. After all, Langley jets were considered some of the safest in the world. But then, a sharp alert popped up on both their screens. A red banner blinked urgently. "Critical failure detected, Jet 427. Evan's heart skipped a beat. Jet 427 was Victor Langley's personal aircraft. "Mia," he said sharply, pointing at the screen. "This can't be right. Look at these readings. The left engine's temperature is spiking and the hydraulics are failing. This is bad." Mia leaned closer, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It's not a false alarm," she confirmed after a quick analysis. "The system's failing fast. We need to act now." Without hesitation, Evan grabbed his phone and dialed air traffic control. "This is Langley ground support," he said quickly. "We've got an emergency with Jet 427. Request immediate clearance for an emergency landing." On the other end, the controller's voice came back tense but professional. "Copy that. Stand by for updates." While Evan handled communications, Mia turned her attention to the software systems controlling the jet. She remembered hearing whispers among the engineering team about an experimental program designed to stabilize malfunctioning aircraft remotely. It was still in development, untested, and far from ready for real-world use. But desperate times called for desperate measures. "We don't have a choice," Evan said firmly when Mia hesitated. "If we don't try this, Victor's going down with that plane." With trembling hands, Mia initiated the connection. Lines of code scrolled across her screen as she hacked into the jet's onboard systems. Every second felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, Evan kept talking to the pilot, guiding him through manual overrides to buy more time. "You're doing great," he reassured the pilot. "Just stay steady. Help is coming." Inside the jet, Victor gripped his seat tighter as turbulence rocked the cabin. Outside, the wind howled like a wild beast, threatening to drag the plane into the unforgiving mountains below. The pilot fought valiantly to maintain control, but the odds were stacked against them. Then, something miraculous happened. The shaking subsided slightly, and the descent slowed. For the first time since the crisis began, Victor allowed himself a flicker of hope. Back at headquarters, Mia let out a shaky breath as the stabilization protocol kicked in. "It's working," she whispered. almost afraid to believe it. Evan nodded, relief washing over his face. Together they guided the jet toward a remote airstrip nestled in the valley below. Minutes later, the wheels touched down safely, screeching against the tarmac before coming to a halt. Silence filled the cabin as everyone aboard realized they'd survived. News of the near disaster spread quickly. By morning, headlines around the world praised the unsung heroes who had saved Victor Langley's life. Reporters camped outside Langley Industries, eager to learn more about the brave individuals behind the rescue. Evan and Mia became overnight celebrities within the company, showered with compliments and pats on the back from co-workers who barely acknowledged them before. For once, they felt seen and appreciated. But beneath the surface, things weren't as rosy as they seemed. As Evan and Mia packed up their desks that night, exhaustion etched on their faces. Neither could shake the feeling that their moment of glory wouldn't last long. Little did they know, their actions had set off a chain reaction that would change their lives forever, and not necessarily for the better. The morning after the dramatic rescue, Langley Industries buzzed with excitement. Employees gathered around water coolers and coffee machines, whispering about Evan Carter and Mia Rodriguez. "Did you hear? They saved Victor's life." One person exclaimed. "Those two are going to get promoted for sure," another chimed in. Even the senior executives couldn't stop talking about it. For once, all eyes were on the junior engineers who had pulled off the impossible. Evan and Mia walked into the office that day feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. Their phones kept buzzing with congratulatory messages from co-workers they barely knew. Strangers stopped them in the hallway to shake their hands or offer hugs. It was surreal, like stepping into a spotlight neither of them had ever imagined being under. But amidst the praise, a nagging thought lingered in their minds. What will Victor say? Victor Langley wasn't someone known for his warmth or generosity. He was a man obsessed with control, precision, and perfection. His employees often joked that he valued efficiency over humanity. So when an email arrived in Evan and Mia's inbox summoning them to Victor's office at noon, they exchanged uneasy glances. "Do you think we're in trouble?" Mia asked quietly as they made their way down the sleek, glass-walled corridor leading to the executive suite. Victor's office was located on the top floor of Langley Industries' skyscraper headquarters, a massive room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of Manhattan. When Evan and Mia entered, they found him seated behind his polished mahogany desk, staring at them with unreadable eyes. His expression gave nothing away. The air felt heavy, charged with tension. "Sit," Victor said curtly, gesturing toward 2 chairs across from him. Evan and Mia obeyed, sitting stiffly as they waited for him to speak. Finally, he leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. "You two took quite the risk last night," he began, his tone icy. "That software you used, it wasn't approved, it hadn't even been tested. Do you understand what could have happened if it failed?" Evan swallowed hard, trying to keep his voice steady. "Sir, we didn't have time to think about protocols. Your jet was going down. We did what we had to do. And I'm alive because of it," Victor interrupted, his voice rising slightly. "But let's be clear. You gambled with my life, and not just mine. The reputation of this entire company was on the line. If anything had gone wrong, Langley Industries would have faced lawsuits worth billions. Billions, Evan. Do you realize that?" Mia spoke up, her voice trembling but determined. "We acted out of necessity, Mr. Langley. Our priority was saving lives. Isn't that what matters most?" Victor's jaw tightened, and for a moment he looked like he might explode. Instead, he exhaled sharply and shook his head. "Intentions don't matter in business," he said coldly. "Results do. And while I appreciate that I'm still breathing today, I can't afford to have employees who disregard rules and put my company at risk." Before either of them could respond, Victor slid 2 envelopes across the desk. Inside were termination letters. "Effective immediately," he said flatly. "You're fired." Evan and Mia stared at him in disbelief. Fired? After everything they'd done? Evan opened his mouth to protest, but no words came out. Mia felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she blinked them back furiously. How could this happen? They had saved his life, risked everything to ensure his safety. And this was how he repaid them? As they left Victor's office, the weight of reality hit them hard. Word spread quickly through the building. Co-workers who had praised them earlier now avoided eye contact, afraid of being associated with the newly unemployed duo. Some whispered, sympathetically behind closed doors, but others openly questioned whether Evan and Mia deserved their fate. They broke the rules, one colleague muttered. Rules exist for a reason. Walking out of Langley Industries for the last time, Evan and Mia felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, humiliation, betrayal, and sadness. They stepped onto the crowded streets of New York City, clutching their belongings in cardboard boxes. The city seemed colder than usual, its towering skyscrapers casting long shadows over their defeated figures. Neither of them spoke as they boarded the subway, heading home to the tiny apartment they shared. That night, sitting on the couch surrounded by takeout containers and half-empty soda cans, they tried to process what had happened. "I can't believe he actually fired us," Evan muttered bitterly, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "After everything we did for him." "He doesn't care about gratitude," Mia replied softly, staring blankly at the TV screen. "He only cares about protecting himself and his precious company. To him, we're disposable." For a while, silence filled the room. Then Evan sighed heavily and turned to look at Mia. "Well, at least we know we did the right thing. No matter what happens next, we'll always have that." Mia nodded, forcing a small smile. "Yeah, and maybe this is a chance to start fresh, to do something bigger than working for someone like him." Her words sparked a flicker of hope in Evan's heart. As much as they hated losing their jobs, part of him secretly wondered if this was fate nudging them toward something better. After all, they had proven themselves capable of extraordinary things under pressure. Maybe there was more to life than following orders and playing it safe. Over the next few days, reality set in. Losing their jobs meant losing their income, their health insurance, and their sense of stability. Rent was due soon, and their savings account was already dangerously low. Job applications became their new routine, but finding work proved difficult. Many companies hesitated to hire them after learning they'd been fired from Langley Industries. Some recruiters assumed they must have done something terrible to earn such treatment, despite their explanations. To make ends meet, Evan picked up odd jobs, delivering groceries, walking dogs, and even cleaning offices during graveyard shifts. Mia spent her days freelancing online, taking on small coding projects that paid peanuts but kept her skills sharp. Nights were the hardest. Lying awake in bed, they replayed the events of the past week over and over again, wondering where they went wrong. One evening, as Mia scrolled through old files on her laptop, she stumbled upon something unexpected: the prototype design for the stabilization software they had used to save Victor's jet. She opened the file curiously, marveling at the complexity of the code. "Evan," she called out, her voice tinged with excitement. "Look at this." Evan joined her at the table, peering over her shoulder. "What am I looking at?" "This," Mia said, pointing to the screen. "This is our software, the one we used to stabilize Victor's plane. What if we finished developing it? Not just for jets, but for any vehicle, something revolutionary." Evan raised an eyebrow skeptically. "You mean turn it into a product? That sounds expensive and risky." "I know," Mia admitted. "But think about it. We already have the foundation. With a little more work, we could create something truly groundbreaking, something that could change the industry." For a moment, Evan hesitated. Starting a business was daunting, especially without financial backing or experience. But then, he remembered the look of terror on Victor's face as his jet plummeted toward the mountains, and the satisfaction of knowing they'd saved him. They had created something incredible under impossible circumstances. Why not try again? "Okay," Evan said finally, a grin spreading across his face. "Let's do it. Let's prove to ourselves, and to everyone, that getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to us. With renewed determination, they got to work. Late nights turned into early mornings as they poured every ounce of energy into refining the software. They sketched designs, wrote lines of code, and tested simulations tirelessly. Failure was not an option, not after everything they'd been through. And so, amidst the chaos and uncertainty of their lives, Evan and Mia began building something entirely their own. Little did they know, their journey was only beginning. In the months to come, they would face challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. But they would also discover strengths they never knew they had. Together, they vowed to rise above Victor Langley's betrayal and carve out a legacy of their own. The days following their decision to develop the stabilization software were far from easy for Evan Carter and Mia Rodriguez. Their tiny apartment, once a cozy refuge, now felt cramped and suffocating as it transformed into a makeshift workspace. Boxes of old tech gadgets, tangled wires, and stacks of notebooks cluttered every available surface. The dining table became their command center, covered in diagrams, flowcharts, and half-empty coffee mugs. Sleep was a luxury they could no longer afford, and meals often consisted of instant noodles or leftover pizza. Despite the challenges, there was an undeniable sense of purpose driving them forward. For the first time in weeks, they felt alive, not just surviving but creating something meaningful. Every late night spent debugging code or brainstorming ideas brought them closer to their goal. They named their project SkyGuard, a nod to their mission of safeguarding lives in the skies and beyond. As they worked side by side, their partnership grew stronger. Evan's methodical problem-solving balanced Mia's creative thinking, and together, they formed a team capable of overcoming any obstacle. But inspiration alone couldn't pay the bills. Money quickly became their biggest hurdle. Without steady incomes, their savings dwindled alarmingly fast. Rent was due again, and utility bills piled up on the kitchen counter. One particularly stressful evening, Mia stared at their bank account, balance on her phone, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "We can't keep going like this," she said quietly. "If we don't figure out how to fund this, we'll have to give up." Evan looked up from his laptop, his expression resolute. "Not yet," he replied firmly. "We've come too far to quit now. There has to be another way." That night, they sat down to brainstorm funding options. Traditional loans were out of the question. They had neither collateral nor credit scores strong enough to secure one. Investors seemed equally unlikely. Convincing someone to back an unproven idea developed by two unemployed engineers would be nearly impossible. Then Mia remembered reading about crowdfunding campaigns online. People around the world had successfully raised money for innovative projects using platforms like Kickstarter and GoFundMe. Why not try it? Excited by the idea, they spent the next few days crafting a compelling campaign. They wrote heartfelt stories about their journey, explaining how they'd saved Victor Langley's life and been fired for their efforts. They included technical details about SkyGuard, highlighting its potential to revolutionize aviation safety. To make the pitch more engaging, they created videos showcasing simulations of the software in action, planes stabilizing mid-flight, drones recovering from malfunctions, spacecraft avoiding collisions in orbit. By the time they launched the campaign, they were exhausted but hopeful. At first, progress was slow. Only a handful of donations trickled in during the first week, barely enough to cover basic expenses. Doubt crept back into their minds. What if no one believed in them? What if their dream fizzled out before it even began? But then something unexpected happened. A tech blogger stumbled upon their campaign and wrote a glowing article about their story. Overnight, traffic to their page surged. Messages of support poured in from strangers all over the globe. "Thank you for standing up to corporate greed," one donor wrote. "Your courage inspires me." "You're proof that good people still exist," another added. "Keep fighting." Encouraged by the response, Evan and Mia doubled down on promoting their campaign. They gave interviews to podcasts, appeared on local news segments, and shared updates on social media. Slowly but surely, donations increased. People weren't just investing in their technology, they were investing in their resilience, their determination, and their vision for a safer future. As the campaign gained momentum, So did their confidence. They set stretch goals, promising additional features if they exceeded their initial target. When they reached $500,000, a number they'd never dreamed possible, tears streamed down Mia's face as she hugged Evan tightly. "We're really doing this," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Word of their success eventually reached former colleagues at Langley Industries. Some reached out privately to offer congratulations, while others expressed regret for not standing up for them when Victor fired them. Even a few senior engineers admitted they'd underestimated the pair's potential. "You showed us what true innovation looks like," one message read. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." With funds secured, Evan and Mia rented a small office space in Brooklyn, transforming it into their new headquarters. Walls painted bright white reflected natural light streaming through large windows, creating an atmosphere of optimism and creativity. They hired a small team of freelancers to help refine the software, including a graphic designer, a marketing specialist, and a legal consultant to navigate patents and intellectual property laws. For the first time since being fired, they felt like they were building something bigger than themselves. Their hard work paid off in ways they hadn't anticipated. Within months, Skyguard Technologies caught the attention of major players in the aviation industry. Representatives from airlines, drone manufacturers, and even government agencies contacted them to discuss partnerships. Each meeting left them more energized and motivated to push boundaries further. They envisioned Skyguard expanding beyond aircraft to include cars, ships, and even medical equipment. Anything that required precise control and safety measures. One day, as they prepared for a presentation to a leading airline company, Mia paused to reflect on how far they'd come. She glanced around the bustling office, watching their small team collaborate seamlessly. Posters of famous inventors adorned the walls alongside motivational quotes scrawled in colorful markers. It was a far cry from the sterile, oppressive environment of Langley Industries. "You know," she said to Evan, who was adjusting his tie in front of a mirror. "I never thought I'd say this, but getting fired might have been the best thing that ever happened to us." Evan chuckled, smoothing down his collar. "Yeah, well, let's not thank Victor anytime soon." His tone softened as he turned to face her. "Still, you're right. If we hadn't gone through all that, we wouldn't be here. Doing this, building something real, something ours." Mia smiled, feeling a surge of pride. Together, they had turned adversity into opportunity, proving that failure wasn't the end. It was simply a stepping stone to something greater. And as they stepped into the conference room later that afternoon, ready to pitch their revolutionary technology to the world, they knew they were on the verge of changing it forever. Victor Langley, meanwhile, remained oblivious to their rise. Buried under mountains of paperwork and boardroom meetings, he continued running Langley Industries with ruthless efficiency. He dismissed rumors of Skyguard's success as irrelevant, convinced that his empire was untouchable. But deep down, a flicker of unease gnawed at him. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he wondered if firing Evan and Mia had been a mistake. Only time would tell. For now, though, Evan and Mia focused on the present. With each passing day, their dreams grew larger, their ambitions bolder. They weren't just rebuilding their lives, they were rewriting their destinies. And nothing, not even the shadow of their past, could stop them. As months turned into a year, Evan Carter and Mia Rodriguez found themselves at the helm of something extraordinary. Skyguard Technologies had grown from a humble idea born out of desperation to a thriving startup making waves in the tech world. Their stabilization software, once an untested prototype used under dire circumstances, was now being hailed as a groundbreaking innovation. Airlines, military organizations, and even space agencies clamored to integrate Skyguard into their systems. The once tiny office in Brooklyn expanded rapidly, filling with new hires, cutting-edge equipment, and the hum of activity that comes with success. But this wasn't just about business for Evan and Mia. It was personal. Every line of code written, every deal signed felt like a step toward proving that Victor Langley had been wrong about them. They weren't reckless rule breakers. They were visionaries who dared to think differently. And as their company flourished, so did their confidence. For the first time in their lives, they truly believed they could change the world. The turning point came when a representative from one of the largest venture capital firms in Silicon Valley reached out. His name was Daniel Harper, and he was known for spotting hidden gems, startups with the potential to disrupt entire industries. When Daniel walked into Skyguard's office for the first time, he was struck by the energy in the room. Engineers worked feverishly on laptops, whiteboards covered in equations lined the walls, and prototypes of drones equipped with Skyguard technology buzzed overhead. It was chaos, but it was organized chaos, the kind that signaled brilliance. "I've seen a lot of pitches," Daniel said during their initial meeting, leaning back in his chair with a thoughtful expression. "But yours stands out. You're not just solving problems, you're preventing disasters." Evan nodded, his voice steady despite the nerves bubbling inside him. "That's always been our goal, to make sure no one ever has to face what we faced that night with Victor's jet. We want Skyguard to be synonymous with safety," Mia chimed in, her passion evident in every word. "This isn't just about planes or drones. It's about trust. People deserve to know they're safe, whether they're flying across the country or sending critical supplies via autonomous vehicles. Our software can do that." Daniel smiled, clearly impressed. "I'll be honest, I didn't expect such clarity of purpose from two people who started with nothing. But here you are, building something revolutionary. I'd like to invest." The offer stunned them both. Daniel proposed a $50 million funding round, enough to scale Skyguard globally and accelerate development. It was more money than either Evan or Mia had ever imagined handling. Yet instead of feeling overwhelmed, they felt empowered. This wasn't just validation. It was proof that they were onto something transformative. With the infusion of capital, Skyguard entered a new phase. They moved operations to a state-of-the-art facility in San Francisco, closer to other tech giants and investors. They hired top talent from around the world, assembling a team of engineers, designers, and strategists, eager to contribute to their mission. Marketing campaigns showcased real-life scenarios where Skyguard had prevented accidents, further solidifying its reputation as a life-saving tool. Awards began rolling in, including prestigious recognitions for innovation and social impact. Victor. Langley, however, refused to acknowledge their success, at least publicly. Privately, though, he couldn't ignore the growing buzz surrounding Skyguard. Reports surfaced that competitors were adopting the technology, leaving Langley Industries struggling to keep up. Board members questioned his leadership, pointing out that two former employees had managed to outpace a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Worse still, whispers of unethical practices within Langley Industries started gaining traction. Allegations of unsafe testing procedures, environmental violations, and mistreatment of staff painted a damning picture of Victor's empire. One evening, as Victor sat alone in his penthouse overlooking Manhattan, he scrolled through news articles about Skyguard. Headlines praised Evan and Mia as modern-day heroes, while editorials criticized Langley Industries for its outdated methods and toxic culture. Anger simmered beneath his polished exterior. How dare they rise above him? He had, given them their start, provided them with resources, and yet they betrayed him by creating something better. The irony wasn't lost on him, but acknowledging it would mean admitting fault, something Victor simply couldn't bring himself to do. Back in San Francisco, Evan and Mia celebrated another milestone, the installation of Skyguard in a fleet of commercial airliners operated by a major international carrier. Passengers would soon fly knowing their safety was enhanced by the very software that had saved Victor's life. As they stood on the tarmac watching technicians finalize the integration, Mia turned to Evan with a grin. "Can you believe how far we've come?" Evan laughed softly, shaking his head. "Honestly? No. A year ago, we were delivering groceries and freelancing odd jobs just to survive. Now look at us." Their journey hadn't been without challenges. There were moments when doubt crept in, when setbacks threatened to derail their progress. But each obstacle only strengthened their resolve. They learned to navigate complex negotiations, manage large teams, and handle scrutiny from skeptics. Through it all, their bond remained unshakable. What started as a professional partnership evolved into a deep friendship rooted in shared experiences and mutual respect. As Skyguard gained global recognition, Evan and Mia made a conscious effort to stay grounded. They remembered the struggles they faced after being fired, the sleepless nights and endless sacrifices. That memory kept them humble, reminding them that success wasn't about wealth or fame. It was about making a difference. They prioritized giving back, launching initiatives to mentor aspiring engineers and support underprivileged communities. Scholarships were established in their names, offering opportunities to students passionate about technology and innovation. Despite their achievements, they never forgot the lessons they learned along the way. Failure, they realized, wasn't something to fear. It was a teacher. Losing their jobs at Langley Industries had forced them to confront their fears, take risks, and ultimately discover their true potential. It taught them resilience, creativity, and the importance of believing in themselves when no one else did. One sunny afternoon, as they prepared for a keynote speech at a major tech conference, Mia paused to reflect on everything they'd accomplished. She glanced at Evan, who was rehearsing his lines in front of a mirror, and felt a surge of gratitude. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't been fired?" she asked. Evan stopped mid-sentence and looked at her thoughtfully. "All the time, but honestly, I don't think we'd be here if it weren't for that. Sometimes, the hardest moments lead to the greatest opportunities." Mia nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "You're right. And maybe that's why we're meant to tell our story. To remind people that failure isn't the end. It's just the beginning." By the time they stepped onto the stage later that evening, the auditorium was packed. Hundreds of attendees filled the seats, eager to hear from the duo behind Skyguard. Cameras flashed as Evan and Mia took their places behind the podium, their expressions calm but confident. Evan began the presentation, sharing their journey from saving Victor Langley's life to founding Skyguard. He spoke candidly about the struggles they faced, the doubts they overcame, and the unwavering belief that drove them forward. When it was Mia's turn to speak, she focused on the future. "Skyguard is more than just software," she said, her voice resonating throughout the hall. "It's a promise to protect lives, to push boundaries, and to prove that anyone can achieve greatness if they refuse to give up. We didn't start with money or connections. All we had was determination and the courage to try." The audience erupted into applause, standing ovations echoing through the room. For Evan and Mia, it was a moment of vindication, a testament to the power of perseverance and integrity. They had risen from the ashes of betrayal and adversity, emerging stronger and wiser than before. As they left the stage hand in hand, basking in the glow of their hard-earned success, they knew their story was far from over. The road ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, but they were ready. Together, they had proven that true success wasn't defined by titles or wealth. It was about leaving a lasting legacy, and theirs was just beginning. Years had passed since Evan Carter and Mia Rodriguez first walked away from Langley Industries with termination letters in hand. What began as a devastating blow had transformed into an extraordinary journey of resilience, innovation, and triumph. Skyguard Technologies was no longer just a startup. It was a global phenomenon. Their stabilization software had become the gold standard for safety across multiple industries, installed in everything from commercial jets to autonomous vehicles and even spacecraft exploring distant planets. The name Skyguard was now synonymous with trust, reliability, and cutting-edge technology. Evan and Mia stood on stage at the prestigious Global Innovation Awards, their faces glowing under the bright lights as they accepted the top honor. Cameras flashed incessantly, capturing every moment of their victory. The auditorium buzzed with excitement, filled with industry leaders, scientists, and innovators who had gathered to celebrate groundbreaking achievements. As Evan held the trophy aloft, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This was the culmination of years of hard work, sacrifice, and unwavering determination. In his acceptance speech, Evan reflected on their journey. "When we started this company, we didn't have much. No money, no connections, and definitely no guarantees, he said, his voice steady yet emotional. But what we did have was a belief that doing the right thing matters, even when it feels like the world is against you. He paused, looking out at the sea of faces before continuing. We learned that failure isn't the end. It's a stepping stone. If you hold on to your values and refuse to give up, anything is possible. Mia stepped forward next, her smile radiant as she addressed the audience. This award isn't just for us, she said. It's for everyone who has ever been told they weren't good enough, smart enough, or capable enough. It's proof that courage and integrity can take you farther than you ever imagined. Her words resonated deeply, earning thunderous applause from the crowd. As they left the stage, reporters swarmed them, eager to hear more about their story. But amidst the chaos, Evan and Mia remained grounded. They knew their success wasn't solely theirs. It belonged to everyone who had supported them along the way. From the strangers who donated to their crowdfunding campaign, to the team members who worked tirelessly to bring Skyguard to life, they owed their achievements to countless acts of kindness and collaboration. Meanwhile, Victor Langley's empire continued its downward spiral. Scandals surrounding unethical practices within Langley Industries had escalated, leading to investigations by regulatory bodies. Employees came forward with stories of exploitation and unsafe working conditions, painting a grim picture of life under Victor's leadership. Lawsuits piled up, draining the company's resources and tarnishing its once glorious reputation. Shareholders grew restless, demanding accountability and transparency. One particularly damning expose revealed how Victor had knowingly suppressed safer alternatives to existing technologies, prioritizing profits over people's lives. Public outrage reached a fever pitch, forcing him to step down as CEO. The man who had once been celebrated as a visionary pioneer was now seen as a symbol of corporate greed and recklessness. His fall from grace served as a stark contrast to Evan and Mia's rise, a reminder that true success is built not on power or wealth, but on integrity and purpose. Despite his downfall, Victor refused to acknowledge any wrongdoing. In interviews, he dismissed accusations as baseless attacks orchestrated by competitors, including Skyguard Technologies. "They're jealous," he sneered during one televised appearance. "Jealous because I built something great and they couldn't." Yet behind closed doors, he seethed with frustration. Watching Evan and Mia thrive while his own legacy crumbled was unbearable. Every accolade they received felt like a personal insult, a painful reminder of the opportunity he had squandered. For Evan and Mia, however, revenge was never part of the equation. They had no interest in gloating over Victor's misfortune or seeking validation from those who doubted them. Instead, they focused on using their platform to inspire others. Through mentorship programs, educational initiatives, and partnerships with nonprofits, they dedicated themselves to empowering the next generation of innovators. They traveled the world, sharing their story with students, entrepreneurs, and aspiring engineers, encouraging them to embrace failure as a catalyst for growth. Their message resonated far beyond the tech community. Documentaries and books chronicled their journey, highlighting the lessons they learned and the impact they made. One documentary titled "Against All Odds" became a global sensation, earning critical acclaim for its portrayal of resilience and redemption. Viewers were moved by the raw honesty with which Evan and Mia recounted their struggles, from losing their jobs to overcoming self-doubt and financial hardship. By opening up about their vulnerabilities, they humanized success, proving that greatness often stems from adversity. Skyguard Technologies also expanded its mission beyond aviation safety. Recognizing the broader applications of their software, they developed new systems designed to prevent accidents in other high-risk environments. Autonomous cars equipped with Skyguard sensors drastically reduced traffic fatalities, while medical devices powered by their algorithms improved patient outcomes. Even disaster response teams relied on Skyguard drones to navigate treacherous terrains and deliver aid to remote areas. Each advancement reinforced their belief that technology should serve humanity, not exploit it. As their influence grew, so did their commitment to ethical practices. Unlike Victor Langley, who prioritized profit above all else, Evan and Mia ensured that Skyguard operated with transparency and accountability. They implemented strict guidelines to protect workers' rights, minimize environmental impact, and foster diversity within the company. Employees described the workplace culture as inclusive and supportive, a stark departure from the toxic environment they had experienced at Langley Industries. One day, while attending a conference in New York City, Evan and Mia found themselves standing outside the very building where their careers had once unraveled. The glass facade reflected the bustling streets below, unchanged, yet strangely symbolic. They exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the significance of the moment. "Do you think we'd be here if things had turned out differently?" Mia asked softly. Evan shrugged, a wistful smile playing on his lips. "Maybe, but I doubt it would have been half as meaningful." Mia nodded, her gaze drifting upward toward the sky. "You're right. Sometimes the hardest paths lead to the most beautiful destinations." Their reflection on the past was interrupted by a young fan approaching them timidly. Clutching a notebook and pen, the teenager stammered, "Excuse me, are you Evan and Mia from Skyguard? Can I get your autograph?" The request caught them off guard, but they obliged with warmth and humility. As they signed the notebook, Evan leaned in and added a few words of encouragement. "Never stop believing in yourself," he wrote. "Even when it feels impossible, keep going. You'll surprise yourself." Watching the teenager walk away with a wide grin, Mia felt a lump form in her throat. "Do you realize what we've become?" she whispered to Evan. "We're role models now. People look up to us." Evan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And that's why we'll always stay humble, because we know what it feels like to be invisible, to feel like no one believes in you. Our job is to make sure others never feel that way again." By the time they returned to San Francisco, Skyguard Technologies had reached another milestone, its 10th anniversary. To mark the occasion, they hosted a gala attended by employees, partners, and supporters from around the globe. Speeches were given, memories shared, and tears shed as everyone celebrated the incredible journey that had brought them together. At the heart of the event was a video montage featuring testimonials from individuals whose lives had been saved by Skyguard technology. Pilots, passengers, drivers, and patients spoke passionately about how the software had protected them in moments of crisis. As the evening drew to a close, Evan and Mia took the stage one last time. Hand in hand, they thanked everyone for their contributions, emphasizing that Skyguard's success was a collective effort. "None of this would have been possible without each and every one of you," Evan said, his voice thick with emotion. "Together we've shown the world what's possible when you put people first." Mia followed with a heartfelt conclusion. "Our story doesn't end here. There's still so much work to be done, so many lives to touch. As long as there are challenges to solve and dreams to chase, we'll keep pushing forward. Thank you for being part of this journey." As the crowd erupted into cheers, Evan and Mia exchanged a knowing look. They had come full circle. From being fired and humiliated to standing atop the world as symbols of hope and resilience. Their legacy wasn't defined by awards or accolades. It was measured by the lives they touched and the future they helped shape. In the end, Evan and Mia proved that true success isn't about titles or wealth. It's about leaving a lasting impact on the world. And through their courage, determination, and unwavering belief in doing the right thing, they inspired countless others to follow their lead. Their story served as a powerful reminder that sometimes getting fired isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something extraordinary.